Don't do it like that. The words came out of me so quickly, I didn't even hear them leave my mouth. But I heard them the moment they landed, because it didn't sound like me. It sounded like her. And for a split second, I just stood there, completely still, watching someone else react to something I had said, the exact same way I used to react years ago. Not loudly, not dramatically, just that quiet, almost invisible shift, the kind you only notice when you've lived it before. It was such a normal day. Nothing dramatic, nothing emotional, nothing that should have carried weight. Just one of those quiet evenings where everything feels a little slower than usual. The kind of evening where time stretches out softly, where the air feels still, where even your thoughts move gently. The light coming in through the window was soft, almost lazy. It wasn't bright enough to demand attention, but it wasn't fading either. Just there, existing. And I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt. How rare it is to have moments like that without even realizing it. My younger cousin was with me in the kitchen. She had come to stay for a few days, and from the moment she arrived, she carried this lightness with her. The kind of energy that makes a space feel warmer. She was excited about everything. Not in a loud way, but in the small things. Wanting to help, wanting to learn, wanting to be involved. Even the way she stood beside me felt intentional. Like she didn't just want to be there, she wanted to matter in that space. She kept asking, "What can I do?" And every time she asked, there was this quiet eagerness in her voice. Not pressure, not impatience, just willingness. And I remember smiling, handing her small things to handle, simple tasks, nothing complicated. It felt easy, comfortable, natural, like something we had always done. At some point, she moved to the sink to rinse something. I wasn't paying full attention anymore. I was doing my own thing, moving through the kitchen almost automatically. You know those moments where your body is doing something, but your mind is somewhere else entirely? You're present, but not fully. You're aware, but not attentive. That's where I was. Half present. Half drifting. Thinking about something unrelated. Something unimportant now. Then I glanced up. Just briefly. Not even intentionally. And I saw her doing something differently. Not wrong. Not careless. Just not how I would have done it. Not the way I was used to. And before my mind could catch up, before I could soften it, before I could even think, I said it. Don't do it like that. Flat. Quick. Final. The silence that followed wasn't loud, but it was noticeable. The kind of silence that doesn't interrupt anything, but changes everything. She paused. Just for a second. It wasn't dramatic. She didn't look at me immediately. She didn't ask questions. She didn't defend herself. She didn't even hesitate long enough for it to be obvious. She just adjusted what she was doing. Quietly. A small shift. A quick correction. And then she continued. No reaction. No resistance. Just adjustment. And that was the moment everything shifted for me. Not because of what I said, but because of how she received it. Because I recognized that silence. I knew it too well. I had lived inside it before. That wasn't just her reacting. That was me, from years ago. I suddenly wasn't standing in my kitchen anymore. I was somewhere else entirely. I was younger, smaller, standing in my mom's kitchen, trying to help, trying to get it right, trying to be useful, trying to be seen as capable. And I could hear it so clearly now, that same tone, that same kind of correction that didn't leave room for discussion. Not like that. Leave it. I'll do it myself. It wasn't harsh, not in the way people usually describe harshness. There was no shouting, no anger, no obvious frustration. But it carried something subtle, something quiet, something that made you shrink just a little. Not out of fear, but out of adjustment. You just learned to adapt quickly, to fix it, to correct yourself before being corrected again, to not ask too many questions, to not slow things down. And I remember how I used to feel in those moments. Not angry, not even upset, just slightly smaller. more careful, more precise, more aware, more right. And standing there, watching my cousin do that exact same thing, that quiet adjustment, something inside me tightened. Because I had promised myself something a long time ago. I remember it so clearly now, even though I never said it out loud, even though no one heard me think it. But I felt it, strongly, deeply, quietly. When I grow up, I won't sound like that. I didn't want to make people feel small. I didn't want my presence to create that kind of carefulness. I didn't want people around me to feel like they had to adjust themselves just to exist comfortably. I wanted to be softer, more patient, more understanding, the kind of person people could breathe around. And for a long time, I believed I had become that person. I believed I had outgrown those patterns. I believed I had chosen differently. But that moment, that one small sentence, it showed me something I hadn't been paying attention to. I hadn't become harsh. That wasn't it. But I had become automatic. That quick correction. That instinct to fix things immediately. That tone that shows up when you're not fully present. When you're not thinking. When you're just reacting. And the truth is, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of watching. Years of hearing. Years of absorbing things I didn't even realize I was keeping. I stood there for a few seconds longer than necessary. Not moving. Not speaking. Just sitting with that realization. Letting it settle. Letting it sink in properly. Then I walked closer to her. Slower this time. More aware. More intentional. And I said, "Hey, you're actually fine. I just do it differently sometimes." It was such a small sentence. So simple. So light. But it felt completely different. Not just for her, but for me. She looked up at me, a little surprised. Like she didn't expect a second response. Like she had already accepted the first one as final. Then she smiled. A soft, easy smile. And just like that, the atmosphere softened again. We continued what we were doing, talking about random things, laughing a little, moving around the kitchen like nothing had happened. But something in me had shifted permanently. Wait, I haven't told you the most important part yet. That moment didn't just make me realize that I sounded like my mom, it made me understand her in a way I hadn't before. Because for the first time, I felt what she must have felt. That urge to correct quickly. That desire for things to be done a certain way. That quiet pressure of wanting things to go smoothly. To not repeat instructions. To keep things moving. And I realized something that honestly surprised me. It wasn't about being strict, or controlling, or even impatient. It was about being human. Being tired sometimes. Being used to doing things a certain way. Carrying responsibilities that make you react faster than you think. Living in a rhythm where efficiency starts to matter more than softness. And suddenly, all those moments from my childhood felt different. Not heavier, not painful, not something I needed to fix. Just clearer. I could see my mom more fully, not just as the voice I reacted to, but as a person moving through her own moments, her own pressures, her own habits, her own automatic responses. And that changed everything for me, because I realized something important, something I wish I had understood earlier. Becoming like your parents isn't a failure. It's not something to fear. It's not something to resist with everything in you. It's something to understand. Because in many ways, they are our first examples of how to move through the world. Their voices become the background of our thoughts. Their habits become the default settings we don't even question. The real question isn't whether we become like them. The real question is, what do we do when we notice it? Do we repeat it without thinking? Let it run on autopilot? Let it shape every interaction without awareness? Or do we reshape it? Gently, consciously, patiently. That evening gave me an answer I didn't know I needed. I can't always control the first reaction. Sometimes it will come out too fast, too sharp, too familiar. But I can always choose what comes next. I can soften it. I can adjust it. I can turn it into something that still carries guidance, but also carries warmth. And that small choice, that moment right after the reaction, it changes everything. Now, when I feel that tone rising again, and it still does sometimes, I pause, even if it's just for a second. And in that second, I create space. Space to notice, space to choose, space to respond instead of react. Not perfectly, not every time, but intentionally. And honestly, that feels like growth to me. So maybe the realization isn't, I've become my mother. Maybe it's, I've learned from her, and now I get to decide how I continue. And that feels a lot more freeing, because it means I'm not stuck. I'm not repeating things blindly. I'm not trapped in patterns I didn't choose. I'm aware, and awareness changes everything. I'm really curious. Have you ever had a moment like that? Where you said something or reacted in a way, and it felt familiar in a way you didn't expect? Like you heard someone else in your voice for just a second? What did it make you realize? I'd love for you to share it in the comments. Those reflections, they matter more than we think. And if this stayed with you, even quietly, you can stay here with me. Subscribe to GistOver Cooking. There's more of these conversations waiting for you.